Welcome to another episode here on Kapp Tech. Today we're going to look at Dungeons & Dragons 101 because I wasn't always this cool. My buddy Rock recommended this topic while he was inviting me to Gary Con 11 in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, so I wanted to give kudos to Rock for helping out with the channel. We had Dungeons & Dragons together in high school. The game actually was founded by Gary Gygax and Dave Amison, but Gary Gygax gets most of the credit. Rock, however, is in contact with the family of the creator, because that's a totally normal thing to do, and tries to get us some VIP tables at the conference. Now, last time I played Dungeons & Dragons was back in the early years, high school years, right before I discovered women and beer, and then I really didn't have a ton else to do with Dungeons & Dragons, but I think now that I'm a family man, it might be appropriate to, jump back into my first love, Dungeons & Dragons. So, want to tell you about it and how you can play too, kind of the basics about it. D&D departs from traditional wargaming and allows each player to create their own character instead of play a military formation. These characters then embark on imaginary adventures within a fantasy setting. A dungeon master serves as the game's reference and storyteller, while maintaining a setting in which the adventures occur. The early success of D&D led to a proliferation of similar games. Despite the competition, though, D&D has remained the market leader in the role-playing game industry. In 1977, the game was split into two branches: the relatively rules-light game, Basic Dungeons & Dragons, and the more structured, rules-heavy game, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Many famous people have learned to like the game over the years, including this guy and Dave from Wendy's. There's been an attraction to it over the years. There have been other games such as Boot Hill, which was set in the Old West, and Sun and Storm, which I met the author of at a conference, just a little different version, yet with some more magic. Role-playing is all about mythical creatures, such as unicorns, as I pictured here with my own camera, and dragons alike, although D&D is a little more focused on the dragons, of course. Here you see a couple of the early books published by TSR Publishing, which stood for Technical Studio Rules. Here we see the Dungeon Master's Guide. A couple things Dungeon Masters like to say include, because I'm the DM, that's why, and you don't know, which essentially means your character didn't know. My own first experience being the Dungeon Master was out in Norway, Illinois at a baseball card shop, and people thought I did such a bad job that they left and slept in this airplane for a while. It really is a godlike power that goes right to your head. However, the rumors of people not knowing they're having a game and going crazy are not proven to be true, although getting dorkier is certainly something that could happen to you. But I know I was great DM. I just needed more nurturing with that talent. But I could totally get back into it if I was brought to this conference. Now, to play Dungeons & Dragons, you're going to need some dice, and I don't mean six-siders. You're especially going to need the 20-sided dice. They are very special. You can get them at a gaming store. I still had mine. The wife was extremely impressed, at the least, shall we say, when I showed her my bag of dice was still in the house. So we are well equipped to go to this gaming convention with Mr. Rockford together, honey. There are other things you can do other than use your Crown Royal bags to hold dice, apparently, but I guess that's a different video. For now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the game. So first you pick a race for your character to be. You could be a dwarf, an elf, a drow, which is a dark elf, a human if you were really boring, and then you can also pick your class, which means you can pick if you're a druid or a cleric, a warrior, a wizard, etc. But the most fascinating thing you can pick is your alignment, which is how your character will behave, whether that's chaotic good, chaotic evil, or lawful neutral, or even chaotic neutral. Basically, picture a grid between caring about good and evil and caring about the law, and then placing your character on it. You'll then roll dice to determine how strong your character is, as well as how much dexterity, charisma, intelligence, wisdom, constitution that they have as well. Let's now look a little more at the D&D conferences. Now, you know these things, they're only going to be filled with the elite, the coolest people probably on the face of the earth. Things like, conference names like Conclave, how can you go wrong? I mean, these are an imaginative sort of people. And you just got to be prepared to interact with some of the most creative minds. I love that this knight posing with the kids actually has like a blood stain on his armor there. That's to make it realistic. D&D is not a form of exercise. I want to remind, I don't know what reminded me of that, but here's an example of a character sheet that you would use to play a character, and a few of me and my friends' characters of old. First, the Great Clump, and then my buddy Kurt's great character Proc, who I believe is still alive. Proc was a holy warrior, also known as a paladin, and then later I did create a dwarf named Scroat, who was also a very good character as well. My crazy friend Rockford that you all know, his character was named Gwar. Gwar was a fighter illusionist, so as you can tell, you would not want to tangle with him in real life. He was every bit as weird as my friend Rock was. The character was a reflection of the person. But eventually, D&D would go on to become automated by games such as EverQuest and Warcraft to a large degree. I mean, instead of rolling dice to determine a character, you just used a software that could do it lickety split. But there is an advantage. Putting it on a worldwide scale did give us some great metrics to look at, such as evidence that World of Warcraft, the game, follows the product life cycle. And that people prefer to make a female versus male version of the drow or night elf. And also that people prefer to make a female hunter, which kind of surprised me. Insights into the human brain here. Good versus evil, this is a good one. People seem to want to control a good character the more and more that they age. And also, males appear to play evil characters more than females would. One thing's for sure, if you're over 40 and still playing Warcraft, you are the minority. Also interesting to note that Proc, my buddy's character, the paladin, that they do tend to get to higher levels. I guess it's good to be a fighter with God on your side. Another question I get is, Kapp, how do people carry around, say, 1 million gold pieces? Well, that's a dumb question. Obviously, they have a bag of holding with, like, infinite space in it. But I did have a couple other objects I wanted to cover, such as the Vorpal Sword, which can cut off a head if you roll a 20. A fascinating thing to know about the game. Here you'll see it's a fact pictured in this diagram. And also thieves have the ability to do extra damage from a backstab or what they now call a sneak attack. So these are some tips to help you in case the nerds win and you're dragged into another game of Dungeons and Dragons. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I could particularly use subscribers. It's kind of been the one barrier I have versus making this a more permanent endeavor versus just a hobby. But nevertheless, appreciate you watching either way. Thanks for your time, and thanks for nerding out with me. The end.